NASA's Mars rover Perseverance has come across the most concentrated levels of organic molecules, potentially pointing towards signs of ancient life on Mars. Researchers are eager to learn more, with samples finally being brought back to Earth. While organic matter has already been discovered on the planet before, this time it's more than just promising, since it comes from a region where sediment and salt were dumped into a lake, conditions similar to how life started on our planet. Let's find out more about the mission. Starting with the mission, Thomas Zurbuchen came out talking about the mission, saying that they picked crater Jezero for exploration by Perseverance since they thought it could provide scientifically excellent samples. Now they know they sent it to the right place with hopes of an ancient civilization on the Red Planet. The rover is actively investigating its delta's sedimentary formations, which take place when various size particles settle in an environment that used to have water. Though during its campaign, the rover was only able to explore the crater's floor, but ended up finding some igneous rocks that form underground from magma or during volcanic activity at the planet's surface. Perseverance project scientist Ken Farley said that the delta perfectly contrasts the crater's floor with its diversity in sedimentary rocks, unlike the floor's igneous rock deposits. He also said that this helped them with a deep understanding of the geological patterns and history of the crater since it was created. He then continued to give another example of them finding sandstone that carried grains and fragments from different rocks nearby the crater, along with mudstone that had some questionable organic compounds. They ended up calling this rock Wildcat Ridge, with it being over a meter wide and possibly formed as mud and fine sand inside a lake that was evaporating billions of years ago. Sherlock, scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals, was used by the rover as it went to the surface of Wildcat Ridge. The tool ended up showing us that it contains samples that are somewhat distantly related to those of minerals made of sulfate. Why is this important? Well, sulfate-based minerals in sediment can help scientists get a lot of information about the water situation in which they were made. Coming up, what is organic matter? Made from a wide variety of compounds, organic molecules mainly consist of carbon and, most of the time, hydrogen and oxygen atoms, though they can, of course, have other elements as well, such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. While it's true that they can be made by processes that don't necessarily require any life, some of these compounds are also building blocks to life, and their presence is considered to be a sign that potential living creatures have been there, currently exist, or are about to. Unlike past investigations, this one took place in a crater where in the past sediment and rocks were deposited into a lake, making perfect conditions in which life could have possibly existed. In the ridge's analysis, Sherlock managed to find the most concentrated detection of organic material on the planet we've ever gotten. The start of NASA and ESA's European Space Agency collaboration work on getting the sample back to Earth started in September of 2021, when Perseverance got its first rock sample. Not just that, it's been able to collect core rock samples along with one atmospheric sample and 2 witness tubes, all of them stored in its belly. Farley continued to talk about how this particular matter was found in the same kind of rock that is famously known for preserving ancient fossils on Earth is extremely important. Even though instruments on the rover are extremely high-tech, they can only come to a solid conclusion once they're back on Earth and are studied in detail. Lastly, why is this a big deal? Crater Jezero holds a delta about 28 miles or 45 kilometers wide. It's ancient and shaped like a fan and is supposed to have formed over 3.5 billion years ago, where a river and lake would have converged on Mars. The rover is currently exploring that area in search of sedimentary rocks. NASA's director for the Jet Propulsion Lab in South California, Lori Lashin, has studied martial habitats and geology for most of her career, and knows just how important it is to get a piece of rock from the Red Planet back to Earth to get some answers. We're just a few weeks from deploying these samples, and the fact that in just a few years we'll be able to study in detail Mars's geology is a phenomenon and could lead us to learning things we could never have otherwise even thought of. One of Perseverance's main missions is astrobiology, which includes retrieving any kind of samples that could contain signs of ancient microbial life. The rover itself can characterize Mars's geology and past climatic conditions, making way for full human exploration, and end up being the first mission to collect and store rock and regolith from the planet. Since the samples collected are so good, the team has already already started looking into depositing tubes near the Delta's base in as soon as 2 months, after which Perseverance would continue to explore Mars even further. Because of this, NASA and ESA have decided to send spacecraft to Mars to collect said samples and get them back to Earth for full in-depth analysis and research. The success of this mission is especially important since it's part of NASA's Moon to Mars exploration program. It also includes the Artemis mission to the Moon that would help them take off to Mars to investigate the Red Planet. Managed by Caltech for NASA, JPL has been in charge of the building and management of the Perseverance rover. Other news: US-Russia space cooperation to continue. In a recent statement to Sputnik, both the United States and Russia will continue their cooperation in space-related matters regarding the ongoing sanctions rolling out against Russia this week that targets aspects of the Roscosmos state corporation. On Friday, NASA's spokesperson continued to say that their professional relationship would stay intact with international partners, and astronauts and cosmonauts will continue to work together primarily for the safety of all those aboard the International Space Station. The sanctions by the US and export control measures still allow them to work side by side on the ISS. US Treasury Department came out with more anti-Russian sanctions on Thursday, specifically relating to the Russian Spec Ops mission in Ukraine, targeting over 40 individuals and 30 entities in the country. These also include 3 entities in space that the US says help Russia strengthen its capital's defenses. Furthermore, NASA's chief gives credit to SpaceX. According to Newsweek, Bill Nelson, administrator for NASA, recently said that critics ended up dismissing SpaceX as it was working against Boeing. Still, Musk's company has managed to produce better results and overall achieve much more. NASA has awarded Musk's company with a total of 14 more missions. The most recent development is a contract for $1.4 billion for a total of 5 more missions, taking astronauts to the International Space Station, while only giving Boeing 6 future missions since its failure in launching a Starliner spacecraft that's meant to take astronauts to the ISS under its Commercial Crew Program. Nelson further said that as programs transporting space cargo and crew were starting up, the only 2 serious companies were SpaceX and Boeing, where everyone poo-pooed SpaceX, saying that Boeing is a legacy company. But guess who's still trying to figure out how to simply get off the ground while SpaceX is already on its 6th flight? Musk's company is on a sure path to getting its huge spacecraft called Starship up and off the ground to take humans to the Moon. They recently completed a static fire test last Thursday with 6 of its engines. Finally, NASA is planning a permanent moon base. Florida currently holds the most powerful rocket to ever exist on a launch pad. Imagine as crowds listen to the countdown go down and its bottom starts rumbling. It makes the souls of all onlookers vibrate and then hit them like an ocean wave as steam and fire bounce off the concrete it's standing on. And then out of nowhere, it's blasting through the sky at speeds we couldn't have even imagined just a few years ago. This might seem similar to Apollo's launch over 6 decades ago, but it might once again be the case as launch time for the Artemis missions come closer. NASA hopes it will once again bring people back and would completely change travel to the Moon, bringing an end to its similarities with Apollo's launch and changing the game. NASA's Steve Creech says that this time they want to do it in a way that's sustainable and leads to steps such as finally being able to build a colony on the Moon itself and opening up paths to space exploration on a much larger scale, but now on a much more sustained level. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts about life on Mars? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.